Welcome back to The Breakfast Show this Tuesday morning. Now, we've all heard an older person at one time or another talk about how different things were when he or she was your age. One of them being that the cost of goods and services were much lower back then.
Of course, usually it's our parents or grandparents who are telling us this. Anyway, over the years, prices have risen. Now, of course, it reduces our purchasing power. And as a result, we find ourselves buying less with all that money that we have.
And now, for example, a ticket to watch a movie used to cost about 5 ringgit, but now it costs an average of 10 ringgit. And that depends on where you sit.
Oh my goodness, yes. And don't forget petrol prices. Now, they have skyrocketed. Welcome, people. Welcome to the world of inflation.
So what can consumers do to reduce the effects of inflation? Well, to tell us, please welcome our resident financial advisor, Yap Ming Hui. Over to you, Mr. Yap.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you for your kind introduction. Good morning, fellow Malaysians. You're now watching Financial Freedom Minutes with Yap Ming Hui. So today, I want to talk about how to deal with inflation. Okay. So what is inflation? Inflation technically is what we talk about. Persistent and consistent increases in price over a period of time. But in the layman term, we need to talk about here. In layman term, we talk about it is price that actually increase but never come down. Okay, that's a problem, because if the price increase and come down, then we are okay. So government statistics show that inflation is about 2%. But I think those of us who live in urban area, in KL for example, we know that inflation is higher than that. For example, I met one NTV7 viewer the other day at Kopitiam. He was sharing with me his view on inflation. He said that coffee used to cost about 1 ringgit per cup, okay, for normal coffee at the Kopitiam, 1 ringgit. And over the 3 years, it has increased to about 130. And when you actually go to 130, so it means that over 3 years, it's 30% increase. Divided by 3, it means 10% increase a year. And 10% increase is very serious. So, but that only applies to coffee. So what we're talking about here now, if you talk about generally, I think the inflation will be easily about 5% on average. So today, I want to talk about how do we deal with inflation. Okay? So number one, I would suggest that we should cut down our expenses and spending. How do we cut down our expenses and spending? Number one, what we can consider do is to plan our shopping. Don't go and shop in supermarket based on your intuition and things like that. And buy only what you need. If you ever want to buy extra clothing, then you should think about whether you really need to have this extra clothing or you just want to have more variety to your clothing. Okay, think about that. And very importantly also, time your purchase. Whenever we go and buy something during the sales, we can expect easily 20 to 50% discount on whatever item they want to buy. Okay, so time your purchase. And thirdly, you can consider also reduce the frequency of eating out. If you actually were to actually cook at home and eat at home, you can save easily 100 or a few hundred ringgits on one meal. So that's what you can do to consider to cut down the expenses. The second way you can consider to minimize cash holding is that, I think to deal with this inflation, is to minimize your cash holding. Because the money that you keep in the bank actually is shrinking every day, every month, and every year in the bank. So you only want to hold the cash for emergency purpose only. Why am I saying the money is shrinking? Because if inflation is 5% and interest rate is giving you 3%, your money net return in the bank is only 2% negative, which means that your money is shrinking every day, every month in the bank. So when you want to hold cash for emergency purpose only, for those people who are working, I would suggest you to hold 6 months of your living expenses to become your emergency cash. So if you're making 3,000, you're spending 3,000 per month, then you should be actually spending, you should be giving about 6 months, which is about 18,000 for your emergency cash. So if you are actually a retired person, I would suggest you to keep about 3 years of your living expenses on a conservative basis. So that, which means to say, for a retired person, you need also to keep emergency cash. Now, then what happened to the extra cash that you have? the extra cash you have, you must actually all invest it in order to hedge against inflation. So it does not mean that you're a retired person, you should not invest. You must still invest after providing for emergency cash. And the next question that we talk about is that third way is how to invest to hedge against inflation. I would suggest a few investments that you can consider to hedge against inflation. Number one is what we talk about equities, which means to invest to stock market. Why investing in stock market can help you to hedge against inflation? Because when price increases, most of the business, consumer items business, they will be able to pass the price increases to their customers. Then that's where their revenue will increase, their profit will increase, and it will be reflected in the share prices. Okay? And next, you can consider investing into properties. Why investing in properties will help you to hedge against inflation? Because property in the inflation era, the price will actually increase because the land prices will increase, the building material also increase. So naturally, the property prices will also increase along the way. The third thing you can consider to invest is actually unit trust. But we need to be mindful, not all unit trusts can help you to hedge against inflation. So you must avoid investing into unit trust, which is like money market unit trust or fixed income unit trust like bond fund unit trust. Okay? Because these two funds may not help you to hedge against inflation. To really hedge against inflation, you should invest into the unit trust, which is like equity kind of fund, or at least balanced fund. That only can help you to against inflation. So this is what I have to share with you today, the 3 ways to deal with inflation in the modern world like now. And always remember, smarter you, smarter money management. And back to you, Joanne and Aisha.
Thank you, Mr. Yap. We do have a couple of questions for you, though.
Sure.
Now, you talked about how money is shrinking in the bank, but still to have a 6-month buffer.
Yes.
So where do we put this money then?
I would suggest that the money that you can actually put in for this emergency cash would be like cash.
Savings account.
Cash in a saving account, or fixed deposit also can,
right.
Or even you can buy some money market fund. Okay, so these are the importantly is that whatever money that you put inside here should be accessible any point of time that you need it.
Right.
You know? And also this part of money would not drop in value even if there's a market crash. Okay, that's very important.
It was well protected. There you go. Just to reiterate, it's about 6 months if you are working. And if you're retired, at least 3 months worth of
3 years.
3 years. Sorry, 3 years worth of expenses.
The retired person, they will need more money to take care of their emergency situation because they do not have monthly income.
Just to sidestep the issue for a little bit, Mr. Yap, you know now how these days there are insurance policies that you can take out for your parents for when they get older. How does this actually work? I mean, I know it's some sort of buffer, but how much of a buffer?
People normally take insurance for the parents for the purpose of the medical protections. Because what they worry is that if the parents were to actually fall sick, get hospitalized and need some major surgery, it will cost them about, say, maybe 100,000, 200,000. That's a major issue. So what they do, instead of this money coming out from their own pocket, they will actually insure them, maybe paying, a few hundred ringgit per month in order to actually pass a risk to insurance company. So that really works to avoid
extra
big blow,
expenditure.
A big blow, extra emergency expenses to your financial position.
I see, I see. Now, you mentioned just then point number 3, which is actually to invest to hedge and to save from inflation. Now, equity, property, and unit trust. Now, if somebody were to just choose, of course, not having that much money to spend on investment, if you to just choose one of the 3, which would you suggest?
I would suggest that if you're not a sophisticated investor, or maybe you're first-time new investor,
kind of like us.
so I would suggest then you should actually try to actually invest in unit trust. Actually, for 2 reasons. Number 1, unit trust actually you can actually start with a small sum as 1,000. Okay. And secondly, unit trust, the risk is not that huge compared to the equity directly, stock market, because you don't know what kind of stock to buy, generally. But by unit trust, actually, it's spread over maybe 5, 10, even 20 stock into one particular funds. And compared to property, if you get it right, of course, you're doing very well. But if you get wrong, the property get abandoned or the prices just don't increase, then that's too bad.
Also, if it takes time to sell a property, as opposed to returns that you see from a unit trust.
Yeah, I think
investment.
what you said correctly. The procedure, the time, the bureaucracy in order to buy a property and to sell a property is much more complicated compared to go and buy a unit trust fund.
Now, with regards to property, usually people would think that, okay, apart from investing down payment, depending how much the property is worth, you can get about a 90% loan, or some people even 100%.
Yes.
Now, where would you put your money then? Let's just say if your down payment is about 10, 20, 30,000.
Okay.
Would you suggest people who have more money to spend to just dump it all in, and therefore hence your down payment actually being more?
And do you save on interest?
I would normally suggest, I think like what I covered before when you missed the class.
Missed the class, that's
we talk
why
about this debt service ratio. I advocate to actually have to say that it's important for us to take advantage of that low interest rate that we are having, because having 4-5% kind of interest rate now is considered quite low over the world. So we should actually take advantage of that. But the idea also, we don't want to take too much. Okay. So when you take, for example, a property, you pay 10%, maybe you pay maybe 20,000 or 30,000, then you have a 90% of it. I would suggest that don't pay off all of it.
Right.
Whatever extra money that you have, you should invest.
Right.
Because in the current market right now, to invest to generate about 8-9% return over 3 years period of time is quite realistic.
Right.
Compared to if you to pay off the loan, it's only settling about 4-5% return. So you can easily use that money to earn extra 4-5%.
Exactly.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. And I think there are now even home loans that act as savings accounts, so you actually earn interest on the money that you deposit in your loan
and you can
account.
actually take it out when you need it. Okay, so when it comes to property, it's actually you think of more of a later on, it's all returns investment in the sense of
the long term.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, longer term
through your capital spend. Okay,
yes.
so if you do have a lot more money, and then your risk for your appetite for risk is a lot higher, than equity would be the thing to look into.
One question I want to share is that some people actually wonder why is that suddenly inflation become a major issue? Because people don't understand is that why over the 3 years the coffee that I drink at Kopitiam can increase from 1 ringgit to actually 130. That's a major increase, about 10% a year. Because actually people do not understand that the issue of inflation is very real now for actually two main reasons. Number one, we have never seen in our history before the government actually is cutting all the subsidies. On the petrol, on all the items, the essential items that we are living in. So by naturally, all the prices will be passed to all the items in our consumptions item. That's number one. Number two, which a bit far in the US, the government actually launched something called quantity easing, which is QE2. In the layman term, is government printing more money to rescue US government. So this measure will rescue US government, but it creates a lot of problem whereby a lot of money will be flushed out of the US, going all over the world to invest. Then all the share prices, all the items prices all go up. So which means to say, inflation is something that we cannot avoid at all.
Exactly, and the thing is, if we kind of avoid inflation, and in urban areas it's going up by 5%, why aren't wages going up by 5%?
That is exactly what government is trying to achieve by cutting the subsidies, because it puts us on a level playing field with the rest of the world. So really, try not to complain too much about the extra 50 cents you might have to pay for a teh tarik today. Thank you so much, Mr. Yap. But of course, once again, you're having an upcoming seminar called the Financial Mastery Workshop, titled 68 Strategies to Optimize Your Wealth. This is taking place on the 19th and 20th of March. What are some of the topics that will be covered, just very quickly before we go?
Basically, I put 68 strategies as the workshop title because I want to just share strategies in order to help people to optimize the money so that actually they can hedge against inflation and also minimize unnecessary mistakes that they shouldn't make at all. Yes.
Okay, and if you have questions or you'd like to find out more about the workshop, you can log on to www.yapminghui.com,
or you can send emails to inquiries@yapminghui.com or SMS 012 39000048.